Corporate PERA is the game changer in Philippine retirement for private sector employees. I'm here with Jon Lim, CEO and co-founder of DragonFi Securities to talk to you about it. So bookmark this and tag your HR representatives sa comment section. So PERA, or Personal Equity and Retirement Account, it's a voluntary, tax-advantaged retirement savings program in the Philippines established under RA 9505 to supplement yung SSS and GSIS benefits natin. Now, before PERA, we only had the retirement pay law, or yung RA 7641, which mandates na kapag walang superior retirement plan yung company mo, and you're already 60 or 65, and you have rendered at least 5 years of service in the company, you are entitled to a minimum retirement pay of 1/2 of your month's salary times your years of service. So kung 200,000 pesos yung latest monthly salary mo, you spent 15 years in the company, and ready to retire ka na, you get 100,000 times 15 years or 1.5 million pesos, which may not be enough to retire at all. If you have monthly expenses of 40,000 pesos per month, yung 1.5 million will only last a little over 3 years. So when DragonFi launched PERA Plus in November 2025, maraming nag-open ng PERA account just to try it out. But the best case use for PERA Plus is kapag idadaan mo siya sa payroll ng company because it lets you invest pre-tax salary. This is called Corporate PERA. And depende sa income tax bracket mo, that already puts you 15 to 20% ahead because your contribution skips the income tax. Okay, not only that, but you also get to skip yung 20% withholding tax on interest income sa money market instruments and yung 10% tax on cash dividends. So, ang laki ng tax savings. Okay, but the catch here, you can only withdraw tax-free when you reach age 55. This ensures na for retirement purposes lang talaga siya. And number 2, you've made at least 5 years of contribution to your PERA account. And 3, you can only contribute a maximum of 200,000 pesos per year for your PERA account. Sir John, let's talk about the employee's experience muna who will be opening a PERA account. Is Corporate PERA limited to Philippine-based companies?
Unfortunately, Trina, it is because obviously foreign corporations domiciled abroad are not subjected to the PERA Act of 2008.
Ano yung investment options natin with PERA Plus?
PERA Plus, there's a lot of investment options, but it has to be PERA accredited, whether it's a fund or a stock. So for example, right now, we carry mga PERA UITFs ng BPI. My personal favorite is the BPI PERA Money Market. Right now, it's actually yielding close to 6.6% net of taxes. So imagine, it's already a tax advantage account, you're already ahead by way of your taxes. Then you're able to compound it with very, very little risk at 6%. That's amazing, right? Other investments are REITs, stocks included in the DIVY index and the PSEI 30. Soon, by the third quarter of this year, you will be able to invest in offshore funds like the S&P 500, Global Tech. So PERA, the PERA ecosystem is becoming more and more potent and vibrant.
Now, let's talk about the difference between corporate PERA and yung DIY, do-it-yourself, or individual PERA. Who manages yung corporate PERA? Do employers pick the investments for their employees, or does it stay as cash in the employees' PERA accounts? Tapos yung employees na bahala where they will invest.
Okay, good question. Trina, for all intents and purposes, corporate PERA and retail PERA are one and the same, right? The only difference with corporate PERA is that if you include PERA into the compensation package of your employee, as what Trina mentioned earlier, you're able to take away the withholding taxes. But since PERA is patterned after individual retirement accounts, such as the 401ks, and in the 401ks, it's the contributor that manages the money, the funds. It's up to you, which is a great thing. Because if you look at, for example, Social Security, right? It's almost like a black box. We don't know where it's being invested in, right? Does it conform to your risk profile? In PERA, you're able to strategically allocate the funds based on your risk return preference.
Can you tell us more about the similarities between a 401k and PERA?
Okay, the 401k and PERA, almost similar. There's just some nuances that make them different. For example, one thing that I wish the PERA could have been, and I'm hoping to lobby in favor of this modification or change, is the 401ks. Let's say even if you contribute no matter what time of the year, you immediately get a tax rebate from the IRS. So everything happens pre-tax. In PERA, it has to be necessarily incorporated into your compensation package for you to be able to contribute pre-tax. Meaning, for example, your current employer contributes to your PERA, or let's say they give a portion of your performance bonus as a PERA contribution by the employer. That's the only thing. That's the only way it happens. Okay, some similarities about 401ks and PERA. They're both agnostic to the employer, so they're portable. So think about defined benefit and defined contribution plans. That's specific to the company that you work for. If you move to a different company, that goes away. In PERA, it goes with you wherever you go. So essentially, again, it's a portable retirement tax advantage account. And in that way, it's similar to the 401ks.
Can the employee and the employer both contribute to the same PERA account simultaneously? And if so, does the employer contribution count towards the 200,000 annual cap?
Yes. So the answer to that, Trina, is yes, they can. So the employer and employee can contribute to the PERA of the employee simultaneously, and it is subject to the 200,000 peso cap. So there has to be some level of coordination between the employer and employee.
Now, let's say I work for a company that started a corporate PERA account for me. So you said kanina, this is portable.
Yeah.
Do I need to inform DragonFi if I plan to contribute to my PERA account on an individual basis, or is that the HR's responsibility?
So what happens is whenever we work with a corporate partner, we deal with the HR. I'll give you an example. DragonFi is the PERA administrator to the Philippine Stock Exchange. So the Philippine Stock Exchange is a very forward-thinking organization in terms of this, in this regard, wherein they really wanted to secure the financial wellness of their employees. So the Philippine Stock Exchange will be matching peso for peso up to 100,000 pesos for their employees. So what we did with the HR of the Philippine Stock Exchange is it's HR's payroll's responsibility to remit the funds to DragonFi. And we will not allow the employees to self-contribute, essentially. But in other situations, right, wherein you don't have the matching program, obviously the employee can contribute up to the 200,000 amount.
So let's say I leave the company.
Yeah.
What happens to my PERA account? Do I need to create a new one, or can I use my existing one?
No, the great thing about it is really portable. So if you leave the company, essentially, we won't be receiving your details from the HR. So it's almost automatic. When you move to a different company and that company has its own PERA program, we just onboard you into that company's PERA program.
So you can only withdraw tax-free when you reach age 55, but there are exemptions. It says here na exempted yung mga may permanent disability and hospitalization over 30 days. So can employees under corporate PERA skip HR and withdraw from their PERA accounts?
Yes, they can. Because again, the PERA, by virtue of it being an individual retirement account, it's really yours. So what you do is you make a withdrawal request to DragonFi, and we will apply the appropriate penalties. Let's say, for example, Trina is absolutely correct. There's what you call the 555 rule. The 555 rule is you can withdraw penalty-free at the age of 55 after 5 years worth of retirement. But what if you really need the funds? Which is understandable, right? For whatever reasons you need funds for emergency or whatnot for your family, you can actually withdraw with penalty. And the penalty is not that onerous, to be honest. They only penalize 20% of your gains, not the principal amount. Let's say, for example, you invested 20,000 pesos in the money market fund. And over the years, you gain interest income of 5,000 pesos. They will only tax the 5,000 pesos. So 20% on the 5,000 pesos, which is 1,000. Then if you utilize your tax credit, they will claw that back. So 5% times 20,000, which is another 1,000. So out of the 25,000 withdrawal, you will be able to withdraw to 23,000. But there's a caveat. Under current guidelines, if you make an early withdrawal, we will be forced to close your entire PERA account. but it doesn't prevent you from opening a new one in the future.
I like that part about the penalties because when people
Yeah.
think of the penalties, natatakot sila.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, the penalty is just equivalent to the tax savings na you were supposed to have. So, under corporate PERA, di ba, you're not penalized beyond those tax savings,
Yeah.
but you still retain yung pre-tax contribution. So, you're still mga 15 to 20% ahead.
You are ahead, right?
Yeah.
Because it cannot claw back your withholding tax credit pertaining to your contribution if corporate PERA is incorporated into your compensation package.
For those, Sir John, na let's say may exemption sila, do they need to provide proof to DragonFi na let's say na-hospitalize nga ako?
Yes. Yes, you will need proof. That's why, to be honest, there's some friction in relation to withdrawal. We need at least 10 business days to confirm whether the PERA withdrawal is qualified tax-free withdrawal or not.
Go to the employer's experience naman. So what's the main win for employers who will choose to offer corporate PERA to its employees?
Okay, so the main win for employer, outside of the obvious benefits of really enabling the financial wellness of their employees, employee retention, the main benefit is what we call is a stipulation under CEMEPA. So CEMEPA is the Capital Markets Efficiency Promotions Act. In it, if the employer contributes to the employee's PERA, the employer is able to expense an additional 50%. So for example, if the employer contributes 100,000 to an employee's PERA by way of its compensation package, the employer can actually expense it at 150,000. That's additional tax savings for the employer.
Is there a minimum company size or minimum number of employees required to qualify for corporate PERA?
No, none at all. You can be a one-person company. We even onboarded a law firm with 10 lawyers. So there's no minimum at all.
And even if, let's say, mga 100,000 employees?
Oh, we like that even more because really our mission in DragonFi is to really drive mass adoption of PERA because we need this in a very, very bad way. So the more employees, the better.
So systems-wise, DragonFi can handle such a large volume?
Yes, we can. Honestly, we don't always get it perfect, to be honest. But if you see DragonFi, we keep on developing and developing, iterating and iterating. We with new features and new optimizations every month. Sometimes even bi-weekly.
So, on the broader landscape naman, is corporate PERA enough to address the anemic liquidity problem of the PSE?
I think it's the biggest step that we can take. So, just to give you a point of reference, Trina, I've often said that the 401ks, the Roth IRAs, and the family of individual retirement accounts in the US contribute to 25% of the value of the US stock market. So, imagine a world wherein corporate PERA gains mass adoption, and if everyone is investing, creating a passive income portfolio by way of dividend-paying stocks, REITs, and whatnot, imagine the liquidity that it will drive to the PSE. And these have a lot of unintended or maybe even intended positive consequences for the economy at large. If you have a deep capital markets, you're actually able to democratize economic opportunity.
So if I may replay lang what Sir John said, one of the reasons why it's like the S&P 500 enjoyed like a miraculous movement na akyat lang siya na akyat
Yep.
is because of the 401ks.
Yep, absolutely. So imagine the 401ks. The 401ks, since the preferred investment vehicle within the 401ks have become ETFs, right?
Yeah.
Every time a retirement account buys, for example, the VU, the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, that ETF will have to buy the constituent stocks within that ETF. That's why you see the S&P 500 keep on rising and rising and rising and rising, and concentration going into the Mag 7 because they comprise 30% of the S&P 500.
Yeah. So with commercial mass adoption of PERA, there is a possibility that it can sort of correct the anemic liquidity in the market.
Yeah, I've often said, right, the issue is not restricting Filipinos to invest in foreign markets and herding them to the local markets. The way you encourage people to invest in the local markets is by giving them an advantage. And in PERA, if you tell a Filipino investor that he's already ahead 20 to 40%, a rational investor would definitely invest, right? Because in reality, if you don't have that advantage, let's say in a foreign market like the US, you can actually even lose in the US as well, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's really a superior market, that's not even up for debate. But having an edge, being able to invest with a margin of safety is really a huge advantage and a huge boon for the Philippine capital markets.
So with corporate PERA, you already have like ang lawak ng buffer mo, yung margin of safety.
Yes.
You skip the income tax. You even skip yung tax on cash dividends and yung tax on interest income. And even if you want to pass on your PERA account, it's also tax-free.
Oh
right?
yeah, we haven't mentioned that. So if you pass your PERA to your son, your daughter, your loved ones, your other beneficiaries, it happens tax-free, helping engender generational wealth creation.
Okay, so DragonFi isn't the only PERA administrator. What makes DragonFi's corporate PERA distinct from its competitors?
So what we really did very, very well, DragonFi, and what we continue to do well, as I mentioned, we always iterate on our investment app. We believe technology is the great enabler, right? If you look at the PERA product of BDO, BPI, and ATRAM, over 9 years, they were only able to create 6,000 PERA accounts. DragonFi created 33,000 accounts in 5 months. And that shows you how you can leverage technology to drive mass adoption. And we made it really agnostic to the fund provider, right? If you enroll with BPI, you will invariably be led to BPI funds, BDO funds, ATRAM funds. We carry all the funds. At the same time, you're able to invest in individual stocks. And I believe those are our advantages.
Yeah, and I also want to give DragonFi the credit for being the disruptor in lobbying this because PERA is not new. It has been here for a long time, but DragonFi is the one pushing it for mass adoption. So I believe
much,
that
Tina.
deserves credit.
No, I also have to give you a lot of credit, Tina. Thank you for always advocating for financial literacy. Thank you for all that you do.
So for my last question, for an employee watching this who wants corporate PERA pero yung company nila hindi pa ina-adopt, what's the most effective way for them to pitch it to their HR or CFO?
Another great question. If you want us to present corporate PERA to your corporate leaders, please reach out to us at help@dragonfi.ph and gladly present to you. I'll gladly present to your HR or other corporate leaders.
Okay, thank you, Sir John.
Oh, thank you, Trina. Really happy to be here.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know how to end.